Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome to the show, ladies and gentlemen, nerds and gamers, and everyone else listening. Hello, my name is Bazil. We are going to be taking a episode this week and looking at post-launch production, content push-out, however you want to say that, and just the overall concerns that some people may have that are very legitimate concerns. So, without further ado, let's get started, shall we? Yes, very good. So, post-launch content. Post-launch content. There we go. Brain's working again. Excellent. This is something that a lot of people have concerns because if we look at the past, we look at Elder Scrolls, we look at Guild Wars 2, we look at World of Warcraft, we look at Rift, we look at Ion, we look at Final Fantasy XIV, we look at etc., etc., etc. Those games and those companies have either completely dropped the ball in pushing out content after launch. They either wait 2 to 6 months to do anything. Hot fixes are not put out as quickly as they need to be. Now, I think Blizzard is probably the best when it comes to hot fixes. And I'm not sure if Elder Scrolls is the worst because I've never played it, but just based on what I've seen, hot fixes were not implemented as quickly as they should have been, especially with the duping bug and that kind of stuff. Like, was not fixed as quickly as it should have been, in my personal opinion. So I think we have two extreme sides of the spectrum. Blizzard, of course, is the grandfather of all MMOs. Well, technically that's unfair. Ultima Online technically would be, but that's a debate for another time and another bunch of nerds in another room somewhere. And I think that if we take a look at the way content is pushed out after a game, especially brain, man, just not having a good day. I think that if we take a look at how companies push out content after launch, it is very, very poor because they have their initial money, they have their initial kind of cash grab, and then they just kind of stop and kind of ride the train for a little bit. And then when it starts to get really, really bad, they start changing things. Examples of that would be most likely Star Wars Old Republic and probably Guild Wars 2. Again, these are just all my personal opinions. I think that those two games specifically kind of ride the train of, well, we can get by until this point happens or this critical velocity takes place and we have to catch up to it. So I think a lot of people's concerns on that are extremely legitimate. We need some type of way to ensure that a game is going to have post-launch content even 6 months down the road. Now, if we take Carbine's word for it, which I think is fair, we can, because by now they've proven themselves to the community. They have listened. I mean, if we look at all their live streams and all their history, they have literally added things while they are on a live stream or talked about it or whatever. So I think that it is safe to say that when Carbine says they're going to do something, it's going to happen. Or when they say they have 15 months worth of content ready post-launch, yeah, I think we can be safe to say that it is going to be one of those kind of glorious moments. That was a horrible sound effect, but whatever. And, you know, I think that in terms of post-launch content, Carbine will be able to do it right. Now, that being said, they still can mess up. Now, obviously, we are going to get some delays on certain things because not everything works out right. Not everything works the way as intended. So there might be a couple months gap every once in a while, and I'm okay with that because there's enough content in this game to last a while. I think the record for leveling to 50 was 58 hours of actual game time. That's a lot. That's pretty much a full work week if you work 40 hours a week. So for a casual gamer, that's a lot to dive into. I mean, most AAA titles have at least 20 hours worth of gameplay, which really isn't a lot considering the older games had, hundreds of hours worth of gameplay. So we have an MMO that can be played single player if they choose to desire, because we have a great story. We have that pathing system and everything else. So in terms of, I don't want to use this example, but I'm going to. In terms of if you wanted to play it like Star Wars: The Old Republic, where you just wanted to experience the story, you could get that nice experience out of the game and still feel satisfied, because the quests are very, very engaging, and there's a very rich story there. I mean, Chad Moore has done an excellent job with that. Chad and his team, excuse me. So in terms of wow, what is wrong with me today? Post-launch content. There we go. I think that the concerns are valid, but they are not valid at the same time, because we're going to be able to watch Carbine kind of grow and progress, and making sure that they have an excellent, I don't want to say system in place, but an excellent way to bring the content to us. I was very, very relieved to hear that they are not going to do what Arena is doing and do it every 2 weeks and the content's gone. They specifically said that 90% of their content that they release is going to be there forever, kind of like what World of Warcraft does. Obviously, their special events in WoW kind of go away, and you have to be a part of it, like the AQ40 door opening, or the Necropolis event, or, gosh, I'm showing my age there, or I don't even remember. I haven't played the game in so long, but you get my point. So instead of having content that you're there for 2 weeks, you only have 2 weeks to do it, and then they completely just get rid of it, and it's another story, and you have to check their website to figure out what the hell's going on. It's going to be there forever, and for every new player to experience. Because, a big complaint that people that just enter Guild Wars 2 is, I've completely missed out on all this story and all this, wonderful kind of episodic stuff that they've done. But it's gone, so you can't experience it. You weren't able to, kill Scarlet, even though no one likes Scarlet at all. But hey, time travel, why not? Carbine, don't ever do that. We will probably murder you. Technically, I blame Star Trek for that, because I think they started the whole, hey, let's reverse the timeline and completely start over. Let's also add lens flares to literally every part of the ship. Sounds like a great idea. Anyway, so I think that in terms of what Carbine can learn from other companies is, don't make content just available for a sub-group of players just because they happen to have a 2-week vacation, or they happen to, not work a certain day to experience X content. I mean, holidays are fine. They've already said that they're going to have holidays implemented in their game, but it's not going to be like, regular holidays where it's just, presents under the tree. It's going to be Carbine. It's going to be Wildstar holidays, which I can only imagine is going to be excellent, because there was actually a screenshot that was leaked or found, or I don't remember exactly where this was actually posted at, but they the fishing tool was like a fishing cannon. So apparently you're going to shoot fish out of water for the fishing trade skill, which is just fantastic. I mean, like, fishing in video games is awesome, but I hate fishing in real life. Like, I have no patience for that. But in World of Warcraft, I could just sit there for hours and just fish, and I have no idea why to this day. I was like, okay, cool, whatever. But bringing it back to post-con content here, I think that we're going to really see some excellent stuff come out of Carbine. I know that Chad Moore and his team have been working very hard, and they've said numerous times where they're going to be releasing, once players hit level 35, give or take, they're going to be able to experience like this huge kind of lore-driven story in the world of Nexus and the lore of Wildstar. So, and no one's actually experienced that yet. That's not going to be released until launch. So that's a big deal, and that's something to keep the lore hounds kind of at bay for a while, until they're like, we must have more story. So in terms of the lore junkies, I think that you're going to be really impressed with the way that Carbine is been able to delve out story and kind of deliver the lore, basically. I mean, there's really no other way to say that. Now, in terms of endgame content, PvP, rating, obviously the 20, I almost said 24 because that's a number. The 20 and 40-man raids are going to be taking up a lot of time. They've even said that the top guilds that are helping test the endgame content have not even made it halfway through the 20-man dungeon raid. And that's a big deal. I mean, it's 14 bosses in total, mini bosses and main bosses. So we're going to be able to see some really, really good content out of these guys because it's going to give them probably a year's worth to make another raid or make another 2, another 20, another 40. So I think that as the game's lifespan expands, we are going to be able to see some really, really good content pushed out by Carbine. Now, a lot of people have also complained that, at launch there's only 4 dungeons. Well, technically World of Warcraft only had about 4 to 5 dungeons at launch as well. Now, that's if you count all of them as a whole, because there was a couple ones on each side that were only available to the respected respected factions. And so you're looking at probably 10 total when vanilla launched, and they had 2 raids if I remember correctly, and people are like, oh man, I can't believe all this stuff isn't, we need 6 raids and 14 dungeons, and it's like, no you don't, not when a brand new IP is released. And I think that's another problem that a lot of MMOs try to mirror, is they try to be that next content kind of bus when their game gets released, because they have to have all these dungeons and all these raids because people are just going to blow through them. Well, yeah, they're going to blow through them if you make your game easy and handhold players, but that's not what Carbine is doing. This game's hard, this game's difficult, and you're going to get your face melted if you're stupid. So post-launch content, I think, is going to be covered very, very well by Carbine Studios and the staff there. I think they're going to do a very, very good job. Now, some of my concerns are... That's actually a tough one for me to answer, because in following this game and just kind of watching the development and how the developers have grown and interacted and kind of come in terms with how their community wants things, it's very hard for me to criticize what they've done so far. Let me think on that as I get a drink of water. It's better. So... So my biggest concern is that we are not going to see what they promised. That's really my only concern. Now, is it fair to assume that they're not going to do what they promised? I think it is, because pretty much every other gaming company that has been an MMO, or really any gaming company in the last 10 years in general, has kind of went back on their word and was like, oh, sorry, well, we can't do this because of budgeting or whatever nonsense that they want to spew out at the time. So in terms of that, I think that is a very valid concern from anyone, to not really believe Carbine at their word, because it's very, very difficult for people to believe that honesty, which just sucks so bad, because honesty in the gaming industry has very, very been lost. I think the only really company that's really left as far as honest is going to be Valve. Obviously, a lot of indie development companies still have that good honest streak going, because they are new, smaller, and if you lie to your customers and you're a small company, no one's going to come back, because they're not going to give a crap about you anymore. So in terms of that, I mean, technically Carbine can be considered a indie development company, because they're a brand new IP and they have a small staff. But as far as their budget goes, they're definitely a AAA company. So, one half dozen of the other. But that's really my only concern about the amount of promises they can actually keep in the first, in the first few months. And that also brings me to my next point, is the first 4 months of this game are going to be crucial. It is going to show them the numbers that they're going to sustain, the people they are going to keep, and the people they're going to lose. Now, I can guarantee you a bunch of WoW little fanboys are going to come to this game and go, well, this game is just such a WoW clone. Like, oh my gosh, WoW did this first, and I can't believe they did this. They copied this from WoW, and it's don't just ignore those people. Just don't even engage them in chat. Don't even just right click on their name, hit ignore, and move on. It's not even worth your LOL fanboy or whatever you want to call them. Just don't even bother with them because they're just trying to start trouble. So with that being said, I think that in terms of their numbers that they're going to pull is also a concern of mine because being a subscription MMO in this market of free to play and pay to play, or excuse me, buy to play, not pay to play, and some MMOs are pay to win, unfortunately, as well. In that type of market, it's going to be very, very difficult for Carbine to say, "Hey, our MMO is worth your $15 a month." Personally, I think it's worth $15 a month, and there's a lot of people who do. There's millions of people who do. And I'd like to bet that those millions will stick around, and I think that as a MMO community, just as a whole, I don't want to say the gaming community because I think a lot of the gaming community is kind of written off MMOs just because of the bad rap that they've gotten over the years. So in terms of the loyalists, is we would call them, we're going to stick around for a couple months and see how this is going to go. Now, if we look at an MMO like Star Wars: The Old Republic, people were around for about a month and a half, and left. There was no content. My guild was able to clear out everything within a month and a half, and that's pretty much when everyone kind of quit. I mean, leveling was very easy. A lot of people argue that stories were engaging, but not really. The voice acting was subpar, and we kind of knew where all their budget went. It was not really developing the game. It was more of to the voice actors and to advertising, which they had a ton of advertising. And, games that spend $100+ million in an MMO need to really show that. Now, Carbine has not released the amount of money that they have spent on this game, and I think that's very wise because that's none of our business in the first place. And second of all, it would throw up a lot of red flags, at least in my book, if they said, "Hey, we've spent $200 million on this game," and I'd be like, "Ooh, okay, well, let's hope that's not the case." And I think that a lot of the reason that people are still very skeptical about this whole post-launch content is mainly because of probably the past 3 MMOs, Guild Wars 2, Elder Scrolls Online, and Star Wars: The Old Republic. Those 3 have kind of really hit the staple of bad rep for MMOs. We have Elder Scrolls Online that had a slew of problems in the beta, and it was not stable, and it was launched with a lot of those bugs, a lot of those issues. And there's still some of those issues in there now, which have not been corrected, which is very unfortunate because that game has a lot of potential. And it would be an excellent free-to-play game, or excuse me, buy-to-play game, if they went the Guild Wars 2 route, which would be completely fine. I think that if that type of game definitely would survive on microtransactions. Now, if they were fair, then yeah, it would definitely survive. If they were, like the stupid Collector's Edition, the game would not live, past month 3 because it would just be a quick cash grab. Now, if we take a look at Guild Wars 2, the game has definitely broken a lot of records and is the fastest-selling MMO in history, blah, blah, blah. That doesn't really mean it's necessarily good. I mean, Call of Duty still breaks a ton of records when it sells stuff, and it's just a rehashed version of the same Call of Duties that have been out for the last 7x plus years, which I still can't believe that game is going. It's like Mario Party. I'm going to be 93, and we're going to have Mario Party 47 and Call of Duty 97 or something. It's just something nuts. But if we take a look at how Guild Wars 2 handled things, at launch, they were a very, very hyped MMO, a lot like Elder Scrolls. I mean, I think Elder Scrolls and Guild Wars 2 kind of share the same kind of boat, where one was successful and one was not successful. Guild Wars 2 was definitely successful. But then it started going slowly down okay, we're going to take time on our content, the community's not going to feel listened to, et cetera, and a lot of people are starting like, this is dumb. Like, your decisions you're making are not what the community is asking for. Why are you doing this? Stop. No, you just did the opposite of what we want. And that is something that is a very, very real concern of any MMO to date, because a lot of companies can get away with that, which is very unfortunate. Then we look at Elder Scrolls Online, which has been a $15 a month MMO, and a lot of problems and just a lot of things that went wrong that should not have gone wrong, and that should have been kind of nipped at the bud before release. So we have those two, and then we have Star Wars Old Republic Online, which just did not do well, and is doing very well for free to play, because their content is starting to become a little bit better in the terms of regularity and quality. It's quality over quantity. I mean, if we look at Guild Wars 2, it's quantity over quality. They just push stuff out, push stuff out, push stuff out. And most of the time, the stuff they've pushed out over the last year has just been a lot of zerging, nothing really worth kind of going back into a second time. You do all the achievements and you're done. You're like, okay, I'll wait for 2 weeks. Now, whereas in Star Wars Old Republic Online has been doing a good job at releasing some good content, and they just released player housing, which is really cool, and then they just released the Starfighter expansion thing, which had like space combat and like kind of like Rogue Squadron-esque, which is really awesome. So once the game went free to play, the content became a lot better because the game was catered toward that market rather than a subscription style MMO. Now, I think that Guild Wars 2 is and should have been a subscription MMO, mainly because it would have been allowed them to produce more content at a more quality efficient baseline, and I think the overall quantity of stuff would have been a little bit more spread out, and they would not feel rushed to get things done every 2 weeks. I think every 2 weeks is a poor decision on ArenaNet's part. But then we take a look at Carbine, and Carbine has been able to release stuff and patches weekly and monthly, hotfixes, blah, all that stuff, because they're going to be a subscription-based MMO. And their game is catered toward a subscription-based MMO because they have plans in the works for future content. And that is what World of Warcraft did in its vanilla launch. And the first couple months, there was content and there was stuff to do. Now, it didn't happen right away because they were a small company and they weren't the money giant that they were today. But it happened at a pace and acceptability time frame that we were allowed, because EverQuest was very, very prevalent, and WoW took over, and we were used to huge, long, drawn out things from EverQuest because their content was so vast and massive. And every time they would release another expansion or another patch, it would just be this huge thing of content. So we have two different generations, one taking the good and improving on that. And then after WoW came out, in terms of post-content releases, games just did not follow suit because they were just trying to really be that next WoW. Oh man, gotta be the next WoW, gotta be the next WoW, gotta be the next WoW. That doesn't work. And we've seen that it doesn't work at all in pretty much every MMO that's been released since World of Warcraft's inception, like literally. And we take a look at Carbine's path to post-launch content, and they have it set out, they have it planned, and they've also said that, hey, just a heads up, this might not go the way we planned, and they're being honest and upfront about it. They're not promising shiny cookies and toys before its launch because they want to make sure that it's right. I mean, I hate to bring Valve into this because they're such a great company, but they need to learn to release 3 episodes because I want Half-Life 2. Now, why did I say that? It pretty much brings back to the point of they don't release things until it's ready. I mean, look at how long Dota 2 was in beta. Long time. Everyone was like, hey, it's open beta, so why not just release it as of a free-to-play client on your Steam service? Like, well, we believe the game is not ready to come out of beta yet. And it was in beta for a long time. And I think that in terms of making sure that X game is ready for X launch is very, very important. And I think that's why Carbine is going to win the day at post-launch content. And I think that we are going to see a new era of MMOs, and I think we're going to see a new way to do things in terms of how you interact with your community, how you can make sure that they are well informed, and you stay honest with them without breaking your in-office rules. Because obviously Carbine can't say everything that they want to tell us, because they can't promise, oh yeah, we have 4 40-man raids planned out in the next 4 years. You know what? 3 months down the line, they might say, hey, this raid does not make any sense in our lore or fight mechanics or anything. We need to scrap the whole thing and start over. So they have plans, yes, and I think they're going to be implemented correctly, but the concerns of the community are still there, and very, 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 very much a valid concern, because we have been screwed over so many times in the past 8 years, or 9. Gosh, it's not really almost been... Holy crap, it's been almost 11 years since World of Warcraft. I'm old. Oh my gosh. That's scary. Oh well. All right, guys. That's going to be it for the show. I do appreciate you sticking around for this entire duration of Wildstar Wednesday. Do appreciate it, everybody. Please follow me on Twitter at Bazile. Also check out challengeaccepted.com. No E's in accepted. We write weekly articles. We have a weekly live stream show that airs every Thursdays at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard, 5 p.m. Pacific Time. And we have a lot of fun there. We talk about Wildstar. We talk about just community news, lore, esports, blah, 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 all that cool stuff. And if you are a writer or an aspiring artist, we'd love to have you on our website creating content for us. We are going to be rewarding our content creators a couple months after launch. We're going to have a random drawing each month for free in-game time or items or just cool little goodies as a thank you to our content providers and all that good stuff. But if you like what I do, guys, I do appreciate the likes and comments in the boxes below. And if you really like what I do, hit that subscribe button. It definitely gives me a big help there, as I am trying to produce some good quality content for you guys. In terms of the videos coming out, we're going to be doing a lot of guides. Going to be doing a lot of just commentary over gameplay footage and stuff, because that's what I do. I like talking, as you might as well have been aware. So that's it. That's all, guys. God bless. Hope you guys have a wonderful morning, afternoon, or evening. And as always, guys, I'll see you in Nexus. Take care, everybody.